One of the most common questions from travelers looking to make the most out of their points and miles is, how do I know what airline to move points to in order to get the same flight for less? If that's you, you will definitely want to stick around for these step-by-step tutorials for how to leverage Virgin Atlantic's program to do just that. We're going to go over how to use Virgin Atlantic to save on domestic flights, business and first class flights, and even one of the most aspirational of all points and miles redemptions of all time. So let's jump into it.
First tutorial today is how to use Virgin Atlantic to save on domestic Delta flights. So let's say that you are on delta.com and then you wanted to fly from Atlanta to Los Angeles, which is a pretty common Delta route since both of those have a lot of Delta flights. Let's just search for one way for now, and further out into the future where we'll find a lot of availability on March 6th, though I imagine you can find this flight almost any day since it's a pretty common domestic route on Delta. We'll just search for one passenger for now and make sure that you click on Shop with Miles and click Go. And here we see that it'll cost 25,000 miles plus $6 to fly this route on Delta from Atlanta to Los Angeles. Let's see how much the same flight would cost on Virgin Atlantic. So we log into virginatlantic.com. We're going to search from Atlanta over to LAX. And the same one-way, same date on March 6th. For one passenger, make sure that you click on Advanced Search and you have this highlighted on points, and go ahead and click Go. So here it's only going to cost 12.5 thousand points plus $6 versus it's going to cost twice as much on Delta. So you can save half your points by booking it on Virgin Atlantic instead. And a nice thing about Virgin Atlantic is up here where it says flexible dates, you can always change this to say flexible calendar instead. And it'll actually show you the full month instead of just the week of when you have availability with Virgin Atlantic. So here we see this Virgin Atlantic flight is operated by Delta Airlines, so it is the exact same flight departing at 4:20 that we would find on Delta's own website. Keep in mind that not every Delta flight that you find here is going to be available to book with Virgin Atlantic. They only have one flight available on this day, whereas you can see Delta operates many flights each day from Atlanta to LAX. But if you are flexible with what time you are able to fly, you can save a significant number of points by booking through Virgin Atlantic instead. You could use Virgin Atlantic to find first class availability on Delta as well. This availability is a lot more limited, so one of my favorite tools to use for this is seats.aero. So what you can do is click on Virgin Atlantic Flying Club up here. And then I would just sort for North America to North America to start with. You can see more than 100 entries if you want to, and I would sort by where business class is available. So here it looks like most of the available business class is going to be from LAX over to Cabo for the foreseeable future. So if this is a route that you'd be interested in, you can fly this in business class through Virgin Atlantic for only about 27.5 thousand miles, and it should be in first class. This will also tell you how many seats are available on that particular date. So on April 23rd, there's 2 seats available. Here there's 9 seats, 2 seats, 3 seats, 2 seats, and so on. Let's search for something out in May. Let's try this May 1st one. So we are going to go from LAX over to SJD. This is going to be on May 5th. Let's just search for one way, one passenger, and then up here in points, you would search for upper class since this is going to be a first class flight. Let's go ahead and click Go and see what we find. This one is not actually available because here on, probably because I clicked on May 5th and that wasn't actually a date that was available. I misread this. So it should have been May 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, which is what we are seeing over here. There is availability on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Let's click on the 8th. And here we have this flight operated by Delta Airlines. And if we click on details, this is going to be a first class flight from LAX over to Cabo for 27.5 thousand points plus $43. If we wanted to search for that exact same thing on Delta, LAX to SJD, one way, May 8th, one passenger, shop with miles, advanced search, and we're going to look at first class. This would cost 38,000 miles plus $43 for the same flight on Delta's website versus booking through Virgin Atlantic for that Delta flight in first class down to Cabo. It is always a good idea to compare how much it's going to cost on Virgin Atlantic versus Delta because Virgin Atlantic won't always just default be the winner. So let's say we wanted to use seats.aero to find some business class availability from North America to South America, we find this first flight from JFK over to Bogota, Colombia, and it should be about 52.5 thousand miles when booked through Virgin Atlantic. So we are going to go from JFK to Bogota on May 29. Let's do that search. JFK to Bogota, May 29, one passenger. Advanced search, we're going to search with points in upper class and click go. So we see this flight is here, 52.5 thousand miles plus $21, and it is operated by Delta. And with details, we do see it as a first class flight. Let's see how much Delta would charge for that same flight. So search JFK to Bogota, one way, May 29, one passenger. We're shopping with miles, and we would like first class. It's only going to be 37,000 miles plus $21 if we book this one direct with Delta. So that would be a bit cheaper than what Virgin Atlantic is charging for this flight. Let's just compare and make sure we're looking at the same thing. So this one is going to be at 1:59 p.m. That's this flight, and it is going to be cheaper if we book this one with Delta directly.
If you're feeling a little lost with these tutorials and you're just getting started in the game of points and miles, we do offer a free Points and Miles 101 course for you to help you earn and redeem points for your first redemption. The free course covers acronyms, impacts to your credit score, how to get free upgrades by sending a quick email, and how to easily get top-tier status with many of your favorite airlines and hotel chains. You can grab the free course at geobreezetravel.com/free course or check out the link in the description box. Let's say you wanted to use Virgin Atlantic to score some business class or first class flights over to Europe. Here are some tutorials for how to use Virgin Atlantic to fly in style across the Atlantic and save on points in the process.
So another resource that you can use to find award space with Virgin Atlantic is Virgin Atlantic's own reward seat checker, which you can find easily on Google, and it is 100% free. It only works with a few airports at the moment, but you can use it to find some pretty good award space. So here's how it works. First, you would say, let's try to find something with Virgin Atlantic. And right now it just says you can fly from London to Manchester or Edinburgh, but there are ways around that, which I'll show you in just a bit. So let's say we wanted to go between London and Seattle for sometime next spring. You can go ahead and just click on check for award seats. And then here you'll see that there is a ton of availability, both in economy and premium and upper class between London Heathrow and Seattle for pretty much any day in March 2024. And then here you can just say see return, and that is how you would search going from the US over to London. So this is the availability from Seattle over to London Heathrow, and it looks like most days they do have pretty good availability in upper class and premium and economy. Some of the days you can see are starting to run low, where on the 16th they only have 4 seats left in upper class. Same with on the 9th, but let's go ahead and test this out and see if we can find this award space on Virgin Atlantic. From here, you would just click on Book My Reward Flight, click on Book My Reward Flight, and it will take you to Virgin Atlantic's website. Once you're on Virgin Atlantic's website, you would just put in your search from Seattle to London Heathrow. Let's say we wanted to go on March 13 of next year, and then say that you want to book this with points in upper class. And so here it would be 67.5 thousand miles to fly from Seattle over to London Heathrow. If we look at the details, this will be an upper class, but these are really, really high taxes and fees, which happens when you fly into the UK most of the time. So we're going to talk about a couple ways to get around that. One way might be to fly a little bit further, go into France or Netherlands or something like that, and then take a quick flight back from Europe over to the UK, and that can save you a lot in taxes and fees. But if you do want to experience Virgin Atlantic's own plane in their upper class or pay a little bit more for their first class as well, then the reward seat checker is a really good way to find availability to fly on Virgin Atlantic. So let's say that you wanted to use Virgin Atlantic in order to find some flights from the US over to Europe in business class, but not spend a gazillion dollars in taxes and fees by routing through England. They actually have a couple of other really great routes as well. I would use seats.aero for this. In the pro version, you can search for different routes. And then let's say that you wanted to go from Boston over to Paris for vacation. So let's see if they have that route. And then up here it'll say they already have this route and you can click here to view it, or they'll say your request has been logged and then they put it on their backlog for other routes to track. So they have this one already. Under business class, I would search for which ones have business availability. Let's look at all the different dates. And so green means there's a direct flight, and blue means that it has connections, but there is availability. So we have all of these different dates between Boston and Paris. So let's say we wanted to go for Valentine's Day to France. So 213 from Boston to Charles de Gaulle, and we should be able to find availability for 48.5 thousand miles, and there should be 5 seats still available. So on Virgin Atlantic's website, we would search from Boston to CDG, one way, February 13. Let's look for one passenger for now. Points, upper class, let's go. And here we do see that availability for 48.5 thousand points plus $276. And the taxes and fees are only $275 here because it is a direct flight from Boston over to France, operated by Air France. And this is in business class, whereas you can see the connecting flight down here costs just a little bit more in points, but a lot more in taxes and fees because it has to route through London, and they have very high taxes. That first leg is going to be in Virgin Atlantic, and that second leg is going to be in Air France. So if you wanted to go to France, this would be a great flight, but also if you wanted to then backtrack back to London, since you are flying out of France rather than out of London, you can save quite a bit on taxes and fees that way.
If you're enjoying these step-by-step tutorials so far, please let me know by clicking that like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel for even more points and miles tips each week. We release a weekly video with these step-by-step tutorials and also a weekly episode of the GeoBreeze Travel podcast where I interview diverse points enthusiasts from all walks of life about the types of points, strategies, and conversations that don't always make it to page 1 of Google. So we've covered how to use Virgin Atlantic to find partner flights with Delta Economy, Delta Domestic Business Class, Air France Business. It can't get any better than that, right? Actually, one of the most aspirational first-class products produced by a US carrier is the Delta One Suites, and you can book those by using Virgin Atlantic as well, whether you're flying in the US or to Europe. Here's how you do it.
Perhaps one of the most aspirational Delta flights that you can book is Delta One Suites, which is a fully enclosed pod. You can read all about it on Delta's website, and it is a wonderful first-class product that you can save a lot of points on by booking through Virgin Atlantic. There are a few different routes that fly Delta One. So here is New York to Los Angeles, New York to San Francisco, New York to San Diego. If you just Google routes that fly Delta One, there are a ton of articles that will list out all of the different routes that you can fly with this product. To find some availability, I think the easiest way is to search for Delta SkyMiles here on seats.aero, look on routes, and let's just try JFK to LAX for now, which is one of the most popular routes. They track this route, so let's click here to view it and sort by where there is business class availability. You'll be able to see here, this one has direct, all of these have direct flights, and some of them are going to be over 100,000 points, and some of them are going to be below. I think the ones that tend to be over 100,000 points are the ones where you're going to have the most luck finding first class availability. So let's see, let's do this May 1st one, which has 105,000 miles, 6 seats available on Delta, and this is going to be JFK to LAX on May 1st. So on delta.com, we type in JFK to LAX, one way, May 1st, one passenger, and then on advanced search, you're going to click on Delta One in hopes of finding some Delta One availability. Here we have that flight for 105,000 miles plus $6, and it is confirmed a Delta One flight here. That is pretty expensive for 105,000 miles, so we would hopefully be able to save points by looking this up with Virgin Atlantic. So here we have JFK over to LAX, one way, on May 1st, one passenger, points, upper class, go. And unfortunately, there are no reward flights available for this search, and that's because it's on Delta. It doesn't mean they have partner availability on Virgin Atlantic. So here we'd go back to seats.aero, we would filter this on Virgin Atlantic instead of Delta, and then look for JFK to LAX, here to view. And they don't have anything available right now, unfortunately. So if this route were available, it would be much less than 100,000 miles, but right now they do not have that route currently available. And spoilers, I checked through most of these different routes and there wasn't really anything available in Delta One Suites at this time. Another really great route that you can fly with Delta One Suites is from Detroit over to Amsterdam, which would only cost 55,000 points if you can find availability on Virgin Atlantic's website. So on Seats.Arrow, under routes, I searched for Detroit to Amsterdam and filtered down by what has business class availability. None of these have the direct route that I'm looking for, so all of these have connections. Let's look at what this first one is, because it says there's business class availability for only 48.5 thousand miles and with 9 seats available on November 13. So here we are going to look for Detroit to Amsterdam on November 13 with availability in upper class. Here we do see that availability for 48.5 thousand miles plus almost $300 in taxes and fees. This is operated by Air France, and it is a business class flight for both segments. So it's not the Delta One flight that we're looking for, but if you are interested in flying from Detroit over to Amsterdam, this is not a bad secondary option to go through Paris and fly in business class with Air France for only 48.5 thousand points transferred over to Virgin Atlantic. If you're having trouble finding Delta One availability on Virgin Atlantic so that you can fly to or from Europe for 50,000 points, Seats.Arrow does have this convenient tool called the Delta One Finder, where they will list all of the different first class and business class flights that they can find on Virgin Atlantic. So let's see if there's anything available from Detroit, which would be the sweet spot for Europe. And there's nothing from Detroit to Europe, but they do have something from Frankfurt over to Detroit, which should be 50,000 miles, and there's 9 seats available. So let's see if we can find this availability. This is going to be on May 10 from Frankfurt to Detroit, 1 passenger in points upper class. And here we do see that availability. We click on details. This is going to be a Delta One seat from Frankfurt over to Detroit on May 10. So that would be a super easy way to find some Delta One if that is on your bucket list for something to fly.
If at this point you're ready to fully jump on board with Virgin Atlantic, stay tuned, because it gets even better. You can transfer any of the flexible points currencies over to Virgin Atlantic: Chase, Amex, Citi, Capital One, or Bilt. So, if you have a hodgepodge of different points with different credit cards, Virgin Atlantic is a great way to pool your points together and get a fantastic flight experience. If you're not sure what card to get, since there are so many possibilities for earning points for a Virgin Atlantic redemption, I do offer free credit card consultations at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. We provide you with a personalized recommendation based on your particular goals, budget, and lifestyle. You can sign up for the free consultation by going to geobreezetravel.com/consultations or by clicking the link in the description box. We have one last tutorial for you, and it covers one of the best sweet spots in the entire points and miles world. That is how to use Virgin Atlantic to get a $20,000 first-class flight on one of the world's best airlines for next to no cost if you move your points around the right way. If you are looking for even more next-level ways to make the most out of your points and credit card benefits, and you're not sure how to do so, we have a couple of options for you. The first one is through the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can access through patreon.com/geobreezetravel. Each month, we prepare a members-only video with step-by-step tutorials based on the exact departure airports, destination airports, and points currencies our members request. We also host a group coaching session each month where we often have special topics and deep dives into different programs, and you can ask any questions that you have about earning points, redeeming points, credit cards, or anything else in the open forum group coaching. We also have a lot of people who join the $5 level just to say thank you for the free content on YouTube, Instagram, and the podcast, and I am all here for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. The second option is for business owners or individuals who spend more than $100,000 a year on expenses. If that's you, we would love to chat with you about our points portfolio management offer, where we can show you how to get some really incredible luxury travel with the amount of points that you can earn with that level of spend. You can book a free intro chat with us at geobreezetravel.com/introcall. And with that, here's the play for one of the best uses for Virgin Atlantic miles.
Perhaps one of the most aspirational reward bookings that you could do with Virgin Atlantic, or perhaps in the entire points and miles world, was using Virgin Atlantic to book ANA first class, which is a little bit of a convoluted process, but here's how you would do it. So there are a ton of great articles about this if you Google how to book ANA first class with Virgin Atlantic. And rather than using Virgin Atlantic's website or Seats.Arrow, what you should actually do is go to united.com, search for your home airport over to Tokyo, either Narita or Haneda, and then you want to book as far out as possible, book with miles, flexible dates, one adult, and then select business or first class. We'll just do business for now, and then you'll find flights. Do not log into United, because if you have something like the United Explorer card, that's going to give you access to even more award space than normal, so you won't be able to find that award space with partner airlines, which is what we need to do. So what you would be looking for is right here, it would say operated by All Nippon Airways, and ideally you would have some availability here with business class or even in first class. It is very rare to find this availability, so as you can see for this flight from Chicago over to Haneda, we have economy availability, but not business, and first doesn't show up anywhere. It used to be that you could book this flight for only 55,000 points transferred to Virgin Atlantic to fly on ANA first class, which was the holy grail of sweet spots because that's more than a $20,000 flight. They have recently increased those rates a little bit for ANA, so now it's based a little bit on region. If you were flying from Hawaii, round trip would be 115,000. From the Western USA, like San Francisco or Los Angeles, you could get this for 145,000 miles round trip. Or from the Eastern USA, including Chicago, that would be about 170,000. And the nice thing about booking through Virgin Atlantic is if you can't find award space going to and from Japan, which is very common, is that you won't be able to find both. You could book one-way tickets for half the price that's listed here. So for example, it would be 85,000 points to book this from the Eastern US to Japan in first class on ANA. Similarly, they have business class availability as well on the chart for how much it would cost you here. So you could fly this for 45,000 miles in business class on ANA from California over to Japan. As I mentioned, it's very hard to actually find this award availability. This article is by Thrifty Traveler, and I have a referral link to their subscription newsletter if you are interested in using that, because they will send out award alerts when they see business class award space on this type of ANA flight or with many other business class products as well, and you can find that in the description box. Once you actually do find award availability with United, for instance, something here under business class saver space, operated by All Nippon Airways, you can't actually just go to virginatlantic.com and book it through there. What you actually have to do is call Virgin Atlantic with this phone number, 1-800-365-9500, and then read off the flight information, and they will confirm that they see that availability. You can transfer your points over to Virgin Atlantic while you have the Virgin Atlantic agents on the phone, and they can get that squared away for you. So happy award searching if you do find some of this award space and you're able to book it through Virgin Atlantic. Congratulations, you have completed the ultimate quest of points and miles and one of the greatest sweet spots of all time.
I hope you found those tutorials useful. Viewer requests on future topics are always welcome, so please let us know in the comments if there are any topics that you would like us to do a deep dive on. In the meantime, if you like these types of tutorials, I think you would really enjoy this video next.